All right. Hello, everybody. So today I'm going to do a video tutorial on my new Sandhill Cranes design. So this is the kit here, and you can see all the colors. And this is what the finished one looks like. It's actually it's not totally finished. I haven't hand sewn my binding yet, but we're almost finished. So it's kind of hard to see the whole thing in the frame, but you kind of get the idea. Two little cranes and Sandhill cranes. And the kit, of course, comes with your backgrounds, your borders, your binding, and all your laser cut appliques. So this is me testing my first laser cut applique. And as long as everything's okay, I will be putting these on my new shopping site, shopwildfireak.com, and they should be available very soon. I did this also with my cherry blossoms earlier, and I found a mistake. So it has actually already been fixed, and those should be going up soon too. So if you go on to YouTube soon, like it's January 2026, you'll find I've added quite a few more tutorials with my new collection from 2025, this one included. So what do you get with, I told you what you get with your kit. One of the things I always want to remind people just so that you understand that all of the applique fabrics have already been pre-washed before they were laser cut. So you don't have to worry about like dyes leaking or stuff like that from those. They've already gone through an actual like wash cycle with detergent and everything, dried in the dryer, ironed, so they're shrunk and all that. These fabrics here, your background, your borders, these have not been pre-washed. So whenever you open one of my patterns, you will find that step 1 always says pre-wash all fabrics to block and remove excess dye. If you've watched my video tutorials before, you've probably already heard my spiel, but colors that are dark or even sometimes colors like this brown and prints honestly don't bleed as much as solids. This is considered a solid. The reason is because of the way that the prints, they go through quite a rigorous process to get the what do you call it? The wax, to get the wax off of the design. And so they don't often bleed as much, but they can still bleed. But these solids, or the 1895 Hoffman Batiks, I call them solids, they will bleed. Some of them, like this dark brown, will bleed a lot. So that's why I pre-wash and rinse them, because I don't want you to go fusing everything and then have bleed on your designs and be really angry with me. But I also want you to understand that when you have a fabric like this that is an inner border, of which it is, or a binding or something, this could bleed. It likely will bleed, and it's going to touch your background. And if it bleeds, it'll touch your background and it'll mess it up. And so please take that step. All you have to do is rinse it in your sink. If you don't want to throw it in the dryer, rinse it in the sink in warm water. Just kind of mess with it, scrub it up a little bit. It doesn't even need soap. Just warm water is fine. And just make sure you rinse it till the water runs clear. And then throw it in the dryer or iron it dry, whatever you prefer to do. The dryer also does a function, two functions. It pre-shrinks your cotton, so all of these are 100% cotton. It will pre-shrink the weave, and it will also block your fabric. Now, blocking is basically when you get a piece of fabric and you get a cut and you've had it, and let me see, grab my background here just as a little, maybe an example. It's been stretched a bit over all the use of getting it, making the fabric initially, wrapping it up on the bolts, rewrapping it onto other things, and by the time you get it, it might be a little like this. You won't notice it, but the weave might be a little bit like this on the bolt. And then you get it home, you wash it, you dry it. When you dry it, the dryer not only shrinks it up, but it also straightens those grains up. So if they were a little twisted from all their here, getting to you eventually, when it goes through the heat cycle there in your dryer, that weave straightens back up. So now you have a nice straight side and a nice straight top to cut your background, do all your borders and binding. If you don't do that part, sometimes you might find that when you wash a quilt, you might have a block that does this. A little bit of this action going on. That's because it blocked itself. It fixed itself after the first wash. So it's always a good idea to, the wash cycle is to get the excess dye out. The drying part of it is to pre-shrink, and block. And so they're both very important steps, and I just always go over it because it's a lot of people don't do it, and then they run into an issue where this is next to this, and all of a sudden you go to just do the fusing part and it bleeds, and it's very hard to get out. Sometimes you can, it's difficult. So please do step one, please, 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 on all your backgrounds, borders, whatever. You don't have to worry about it with your laser cut pieces because they've already been done. So on the Sandhill Cranes, I'm not going to sew borders and everything on. Essentially what I do in these tutorials is I show you how to do the applique process. So we are going to kind of skip this. Other than that, I've already cut my background. Now this particular piece uses a fabric that has an ombre effect, so it goes from dark to light. And what I want to do when I'm cutting this is I'm going to go cut my strip. So the piece that you get, I'm going to cut off the salvage edge on the darkest part, the darkest edge. I'm just going to trim it off just to straighten it up. Then I'm going to go 19.5 inches from that trimmed edge to the bottom. That gives me this darkest ombre effect to this kind of lighter medium shade here. You can put it anywhere you want. If you want your background to be a little lighter, just move it down a little bit, because this continued to get lighter for the full 44 inches. I'm only using the first, little under half actually, because we're only using 19.5. So you're gonna get this nice big chunk left over to do whatever you want with. But to get this darkest edge on the top going down 19.5 inches to the kind of medium range, that's where the pattern in the picture is showing it. And then you're going to cut it 15 inches wide. So I have a 19.5 long by 15 inches wide going from the darkest selvage edge down to the 19.5. Okay, so I got my background done. The next step would be to trace all applique pieces on paper side of fusible web. Press fusible webbing to wrong side of chosen fabrics, cut out all pieces. Well, guess what? You got a laser kit. You don't have to do that step. Everything's already laser cut for you. So this step, number 3 on this particular pattern, this is just if you are doing the tracing and cutting yourself. And if you are, bravo for you. If you want to do a second one and you think, I'm going to cut and trace this one myself, I don't want to buy another kit, I just want to make another one, or any of my other designs, you have a pattern, you don't want to buy a kit. I did just yesterday put a tutorial on where I go through the steps of tracing a applique and how you would assemble that, and cutting. So it gives you some tips on cutting. So if you go on my if you're on my YouTube right now, there's one that's about fusible web, and that will kind of go through that if you want to follow it, because I find that people make some mistakes with fusible web that make it more difficult than it needs to be when it comes to cutting. So, and I just, like I said, go over some tips and good scissors to use, the way that I cut, and etc. So anyhow, we're going to skip to number 4. Lay the applique pressing sheet onto the layout guide and prearrange cranes A and B. So those are the big guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my pieces, I'm going to put my background off to the side for now. We don't need that yet. And I'm going to grab my layout guide. Now, for me to do this in this tutorial, I'm going to have to turn it sideways. So sorry about that. But that way you can see what I'm doing better. So we're going to arrange crane A, and then we're going to arrange crane B. Now here's a funny thing. Every time I do, this is me testing my laser kit. So I'm crossing my fingers. Please don't have mistakes. Please don't have a big mistake. I did my cherry blossoms earlier, and I realized that I told you guys that you only needed 4 number 5 flowers. You needed 5, of course. So I fixed it. My kits have the right amount. My pattern still says 5. When I do my reprints of the pattern, I'll correct things like that. But I hate when I find mistakes. So I'm just like, please, please, please let the cranes be perfect. It's so frustrating for me when I have a mistake. Okay. So one thing though that is funny about this is I draw everything by hand, and then I hand write in like number 7, number 14, blah, blah, blah. I forgot to erase my handwritten A, the A is right above it, and my handwritten B, B is right below it. So that's my handwriting. Just ignore them. Another thing that I'll erase for future printings, but for now it doesn't hurt anything. But every once in a while you'll see my my writing on stuff, because I'll go in and I'll put the A with the computer, and then I erase that with the computer. And apparently I did not do that, and I didn't notice, which is also like, how do you not notice these things? But I didn't notice it. So I'm going to take my applique pressing sheet now. This particular one, you might notice it's really long, really wide, and it actually used to be about double the size. It was huge, and I cut it in half, and then I cut that half in half, so I have some smaller ones. This big chunk, I left one big chunk because I find that it's actually very helpful, and on this one, it's going to be a great size. Now, if you have a smaller pressing sheet, the first one I used and that I still have is a 13 by 17 size. It works great for most things. Sometimes with that size, maybe with this guy, I might have to do it kind of put one on an angle to get him to fit. On the size I have here now, it'll fit great. There's also a size that I think is like an 18 by 20 or something like that, somewhere around that. It's a really nice size for a lot of my designs. If you're buying a pressing sheet, they're not too much different in price, but the 18 by 20 is a great size because most of my big figures will fit on that no problem. And then you could also buy like a huge one like this and chop it up into smaller pieces. And that's what I've done here. And I kept one really big and it fits great. And apparently it's 15 inches wide because it's like perfect on here. Okay, so the other thing I'm going to do ahead of time, I guess I should have mentioned this. The other side of this you'll see, and this is upside down. Turn it around just so that you can see it right side up. The other thing I'm going to do before I get going is I'm going to label all my appliques. So you'll see this is this dark brown on cranes, and the little sticker that comes on it will say dark brown on cranes, deep earth, that's the color. I went ahead and I've numbered or lettered every single piece. The same with like, here's the light gray on cranes, the February color right there. We've got the red that's down here. And I've gone ahead and every single one, I've gone ahead and labeled them. And that just makes it easier. And I kind of set them off to the side here. I just sort of have them in a row so I can grab them as I need them. And when I go to put them together. Now, the other thing that I will sometimes suggest to people, especially if you've already hand cut them, is to take like everything for crane A and put them in order. So you have A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6, etc. until the end, off to the side in order. One, that helps if you are missing a piece, like you're like, oh, where is A5? I can't find A5. Maybe you forgot to cut it. Maybe you dropped it. If you're hand cutting them, the other tip I give you is take them all and put them in a little bag. So you have everything in one little bag. If it's a very detailed animal, maybe just put the animal pieces in a bag. But that way you don't lose anything. When I'm doing laser kits, I found that instead of popping everything out and having them in order next to me, I kind of like to keep them in their little pieces and pull them out as I need them. That helps me to not lose small pieces. And I do find that, I mean, you might spend a little bit more time finding something, but I just found that I kind of like that better, to leave them in their little fabric shapes and pop them out as I need them. So, okay, so we're not going to need for right now this one at all. We're not going to need this one at all, but I think we need pretty much everything else. The other thing I will tell you to have on hand when you're going about this is a little pair of thread scissors, because sometimes the threads will catch a little bit when you're pulling them out, or sometimes the thread will be sticking out of the side of the applique as you after you've pulled it out, and it's nice to clip those off, or if you need it to clip it out of the shape, you have those handy. Okay, so let's put our crane back in place here. And I'm going to turn my light table on. So this table is a 18 by 24. It's awesome size. If you really get into doing these, I highly suggest one this size. But I also have a smaller, I think it's 13 by 17 size from Caterpillar. It's a really nice size. They're a little over $100. I think somewhere around like $120 to $150, depending on where you get them. And it's a really great size for starting too. I just noticed it's getting later in the day. Here's my phone shadow above you. My very fancy method of filming the phone on the stand above me. And it's stacked on, you can't see them, but I have it stacked on boxes to get it up higher. Anyhow, very, very, very high tech. But I'll tell you, if you want me to get higher tech than this, you're never going to see tutorials from me, because I just don't have time to learn all the editing and all that stuff. And I finally came to the conclusion a year or so ago that if I'm ever going to put out video tutorials, I just need to stick my phone above my hands and just do it. And so that's what you get. Low tech, but you know, at least the information's out there. Okay, so we're going to start with crane A. Crane A is in numerical order. So you want to make sure you're layering everything in order. Don't skip ahead, because a lot of the times, not every time, but most of the time, one piece is going to lay on the other. And if you look at like his feathers, we're doing legs first, underneath here, 4, 5, 6. Where's 7? I just looked at this so I would be like, I'll know where everything is. Where is 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Seriously? I like just counted them. I see 8, 9. Where's 7? I can't believe I can't find 7. I just counted him. Oh my gosh, it's right there. 7. Okay, 8, 9. So you see that his feathers were building from behind and up. And if you put like 7 after 8, well, it's not going to fit right and it's not going to look right. So you do want to make sure that you put them in order, because everything on here is built to layer on itself and they're all going to overlap something. Don't try to like butt them up against each other. You're going to have an overlap, and that overlap is important because when we go to pre-fuse him, and so we can peel him off as one big applique, he needs that overlap because this little part is gripping onto the bottom and it holds it together. If they're like this, you peel it up, you're not going to get this, right? So that's something that when I taught on this cruise last year, I realized that sometimes people were trying to, like, instead of putting this foot where it goes, say here, and then this number, whatever, 8 looks like, is going to overlap it. They try to put it right down here so that 8 just touched it. Don't do that. 8's meant to overlap it. So I'm just going to pull out, I got A1 and A2 right here. Put these off to the side. These are my legs. And when I go to peel off the paper, I'll fold towards the paper, and then the paper will want to stay folded and the fabric often will kind of release, and then it's easy to grab that and just peel the paper off. That's garbage. So I'm going to start with 1. I'm actually going to start by putting, I also like to kind of, instead of starting at the bottom here, I like to kind of put something where I can see like, oh, this goes, oh my God, I found my first mistake. Okay. I knew I was going to find a mistake. Let me just check this and see if I actually did do it wrong. I did. Son of a nutcracker. Okay. So A1 is actually written as A2 on the pattern. First mistake. I just want to freak out. I tell you what, 2025 was like the worst year ever. And getting these even done, I'm just so grateful. Finding mistakes, I mean, it happens, but I hate it. I hate it. The very first one, literally, that we do on this is a mistake. Okay, so this says 2. Over here, it says 2. It's supposed to be 1. You can't see because I'm off the table. Anyhow, over here, this is 2, this is 1. I'm going to correct it on here so that I remember. And I'm going to make sure to correct it on here. So, oh wait, no, I just did correct it. Okay, so if I correct it on here, it'll correct over there because they were just opposites. Okay, mistake number 1. I get my little notepad out. My gosh. Okay, so now we know. I mean, it's not the worst mistake in the world, but I just hate mistakes, and I just seem to find them all the time these days. Okay, number 3. Please be number 3. Which one is it? So A3. And you have to kind of search for them sometimes. And actually, one of the things that's nice, you can look at your picture, but you can also kind of look under here, and it kind of helps to find it. It's a dark piece. Here it is, A3. And I'm going to fold that paper forward, and I'm going to peel that off. Here's crossing my fingers that the first one was the only mistake that we find. Oops, no, that's going to go like this. Okay, so looks like we're going to go here. Oh, here we go. So it's following this bottom edge here, and it goes over here, it kind of comes down, and it follows this bottom edge. And a lot of this is going to get covered. So really, you're just peeking through right here and a little bit right there and over here. A4 is what? It's going to be over this way. So it's actually one of these medium browns. I'm gonna pop that out, fold her over, peel that off. Okay. A4, and again, I'm following these little points. I know that that's where there's meant to go. That's like the edge that I can see on the applique. So I'm going to put it in the points first, let this just flow, and it's going to get overlapped. A5, which is, it's one of these little highlights, 5 and 6, and they are this lighter color over here, I think. Yep. So this is called Off-White. It's like a sakura flower design. I'm gonna just pop both 5 and 6 out. Oop. Fold towards me. Sometimes it doesn't work as well as others, but I always say just kind of, if you fold it and just kind of scrape at it, and sometimes fold from another area if it's just really wanting to hold on in one spot. Okay, 5, I'm gonna look up. So 5 is actually this little point that's sticking out. 6. And this is another thing I do. I will lift, I'll hold it in place with one hand and lift it up with the other, just to kind of see if where things go. 7 we found, it was the one I couldn't find anywhere, and it's this dark brown fans. So this one actually, if you look at it this way, it's like a Japanese kind of fan design that I did. This is my favorites from my Summer Zen collection, this design, and I love this color, and it's also in this oak color. And so when I was thinking about doing some cranes, I didn't even think about using the fans for the feathers until they came in, and I had just happened to have picked these colors. And so I'm lining up this bottom edge. You can see that the points fit. And so that's kind of a lot of the times how, I look for an edge that I know that's where that goes, and it's going to overlap that other piece. So, but anyways, I hadn't really thought about doing, we're on 8, these fans and using them as feathers, but when I got them in and I started planning the cranes, I thought, oh, you know what, those fans, if I flip them upside down, they kind of work for feathers, and they just turned out perfect, and I was just really, really happy about those. So okay, 8, I have this upside down, so it goes in here, and these darker ones can be harder to see. So it's going to overlap this brown a little bit. About 1/8 of an inch is usually my overlap, is kind of where I go. And then we have 9 is going to be over here, and 9 is also that lighter off-white. And with these little sharp points, I hold the bottom and I pull. And I just kind of pull them. Oops, I dropped a piece. And if you have any little threads that stick out, I just nip them off. This white one is one that I used in the cherry blossoms earlier, and it has a tendency, for some reason, some colors for some reason, or some, like maybe that particular bolt or something, just likes to have a lot of little threads, and I'm not really exactly sure why, but it's weird how like one, they're all cut basically with the same settings on my laser machine, and how some of them will just cut so perfectly and so beautifully, and others just want to have all these little threads, and I don't know why. I just assume it has something to do. So 10 and 11 are down here. They're also this off-white. I assume it has something to do with that particular spot in the weave or something, but the way that my machine works, and I mention it a lot of times, my laser machine it's basically little beams of heat that are burning it. And I mean, they're tiny, minuscule little beams. It's amazing how fast the machine cuts things. And, when I watch it just going like this, and I just like, how many little beams of light did it just shoot out at that fabric? But the perforations are, when you look at it up close, you can kind of see it, but it's almost invisible as soon as it's, you know, a little bit away from your eye. And so they're basically all perforated. So when you're pulling them apart, there is a little bit that maybe can catch once in a while. And if a particular thread just gets it like on a little bit on one side, a little bit on the other, the middle might still hold a bit. And that's why you have your little thread scissors. Okay, so we're on 12. So 12 actually is up here. It's also from this light off-white color. And so 12, I just kind of like make that curve fit nicely. 13 is down here, which I believe is this off, or not off-white, light gray. And it is. And so this one has a little thread sticking out. Yeah, if the threads don't bother you, you don't worry about them. But I usually like to, if they're kind of long ones, I do like to clip them off. And then this one, it's going to, now don't try to follow this edge, right? Because we're going to overlap. So we're going to follow where it's going to get an overlap by 14. So now we're on 14, which is this oak colored fan. So it's the official name is Tan Fans on Cranes, but the color SKU is called oak. That's why I call it that. And this one is probably, I mean, it's funny because I'm not a brown person at all, but I loved both of the brown fans. I mean, this oak one and this, where the heck is it? This one here, this chestnut one. They're just, I was just like, man, I'm not a brown person, but I like deep chocolatey browns and I like taupe. I like that gray brown. So I think that's why they got me. I just love them. Okay, so what were we on? 14. So now 15, a lot, the rest of, we've got his body done at this point. So we're just kind of working up here on his face now. So we want to do 15, which is his gray top of his head, this sort of shaded part of his head. And following again this little edge, these little lines, that's the that's where I'm going to lay it down and let the rest kind of fall. 16. And so on this one too, I have this very defined line, right? That's going to be the most important part to get exactly where it should be. So I'm following that little edge so that I get a really, like, it goes right in place. 17 is this red. So funny story about these cranes. So 2025 was a really tough year in my house. And actually, let me not talk about that until I get done with this. 18 is this purple. This area of his face is going to go quickly, and then we'll get going on his girlfriend. Oh, I have a little thread sticking out. And see, when a little thread like this dark purple is going to stick out over white, I do want to clip it because, you'll see it, and I don't want to see it. 19 and 20 are his eye. So 19 is this little topaz color, this golden kind of, whoops, dropped it. And if you have trouble with these tiny little pieces, I don't ever do this, but other people have used tweezers, and I've never used tweezers. I tried to use them once when I was trying to show people like how you could use them, but I'm just not good with them. But other people really like tweezers, and my mom, she used to teach people how to do, so my family had a fabric store. I grew up in a fabric store. They bought it 10 years before I was born, and then I basically, like, for the first 11 years of my life, I was there pretty much Monday through Saturday every week with my grandma, my grandpa, my aunts, so I was 21, 22, and then they closed when I was 40 in 2020. And so for the first 40 years of my life, I was at the fabric store all the time. And my mom worked there. My aunts, both my aunts worked there. My grandparents worked there originally and owned it. And my grandma and grandpa lived upstairs. So I grew up with my aunts and grandparents and cousins and literally in the fabric store. Not a lot of people who grew up in a fabric store, but I was one of them, and it was great. It's like having your family with you, you know, like pretty much every day. Okay, so let me just see. I have one more piece to do on his beak, and I have a little gap right here, and so I'm thinking that I might move his beak up just slightly. I thought maybe something else was going to cover it, but I think that these ones are a little high. Or his beak is a little low. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift that beak up, and instead of moving these two, which I could, I mean, I suppose I could. I can move them just so slightly, ever so slightly, and fit the beak on there so that we don't have any gaps. There we go. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now we're going to start on the girl. So he's done. So now we want to start on the girl. Let's see if I got her legs right, B1 and B2. So anyhow, what I was starting to say is that this spring, I knew I needed to get these patterns done. It's taken me a really long time to get the kits done, but they're finally... Are you serious? I messed up on these too. Oh my God. Okay, so the legs on both of them are messed up in this area, right? Yes, that is, it's not funny. It makes me so mad, but it is kind of funny that both of them, the legs are messed up. Please be the only mess up. Please be the only mess up. Okay, B1 and B2. So they're here on the layout, they're in the right order. Over here in the appliques, I just flipped the 1 and 2 on both of them. Like, anyhow. Okay, 3 is this really dark brown. So we're counting how many mistakes can we find. So anyways, I was kind of procrastinating getting these done. Just because of all the other stuff that was going on in my life at the time. And when I was leaving my house one day, I backed out of my driveway and I looked in my rearview mirror and I was like, what on earth is in my road? And behind me, there were 2 cranes, these like cranes, walking in my road right in front of my house. And I've never seen cranes on my property before. I mean, we see them flying above, flying over and stuff, but I've never seen them. And they were just in the road. It wasn't like they were stopping somewhere to get water or something. And I was just like, what the heck is that? And then I realized that they were cranes. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And I said, okay, I got it. I'll take the hint. And I said, I'm going to work on finishing up the crane pattern tonight, because, you know, the cranes themselves are showing up on my property telling me, like, get your butt in gear and get these patterns done. So now that it's getting to be, what number am I on here? 5, 6. So now that it's getting to be the middle of winter. Oh, and I think I didn't label it. Let's see. Let's make sure this is it. It is. I just forgot to write B6 on it. That's why I couldn't find it. Yeah, I'm finally getting these kits done, and I really do like the patterns that I did to this. It's just been a tough year getting things done. I'm so behind this year, but a lot of stuff going on in my life that was kind of took precedence, you know, over other things. So okay. But at least we're getting things done. Although apparently kind of poorly because I have mistakes everywhere. Okay, number 8, B8. But if the only thing that's wrong are those legs are backwards on both of them, then I'll be pretty happy. Okay, and so here's the little point down here for B8, and I know it needs to go along this edge, so I'm just going to lay that down. B9 and B10 are in this light off-white color. Almost done with that color, actually. So 9 goes right here. And then 10 is this little highlight in here. Okay, 11 is up here, and that is going to be this gray. So I don't know if any of you have been around a lot of Sandhill cranes. I've seen them flying overhead a lot, and I've seen them, like, we have an area near the Kenai River that's just this big flat area, and you'll see birds all the time out there. I mean, that they love it out there. It's just a big open area near the river that's like marshy, you know, it's like prime habitat for birds. And I've seen cranes out walking out there, but I've never really been up close to them. And oh my gosh, they're huge. And so when those ones were in my driveway, like, it was like, are those velociraptors in my rear view mirror? I equate everything to being a dinosaur or a velociraptor. So I'm just like, oh my God, there are dinosaurs in the yard. Of course it wasn't dinosaurs, but they're enormous. I mean, they are walking. I mean, they had to have been over 4 feet tall. I think they would have, like, they could have easily, like, pecked my eyes out if I got too close to them. But it was just crazy to see them, because I was literally saying, like, I know I need to work on these patterns. I know I need to get them done. And the cranes was one of the ones that it was like, I know I need to get on that one. And then it was like the crane showed up to tell me, like, just take a break tonight and work on us, please. So I did. Okay, so what was that number? 13. 14 is up here in his face. Sorry, this is the lady crane. Although, I don't know, she could be the boy crane. Are cranes very different in size, boys to girls? Sometimes, you know, the girls are bigger. I have no idea. Oh my goodness. 14. 15. That's it for that color. And this is going to go along here. Then we want 16 is right here, this dark purpley plum color, which is actually your outer border. Just a little bit in his face, her face. Okay, so now I gotta just figure out where we put her. Right here. 17 is going to be our red. And 18 and 19 are going to be her eye. So we got that topaz. That's it for that one. Ooh, and see, mine is sticking. It's really holding on right there. So instead of me yanking on it, I'm going to take my little scissors and just snip it. Yeah, if you pull and you tug and it's not coming out, and I'm just kind of flipping this up to see where her eye is, because I don't want to put it in the wrong place. I thought it went over here for a minute. I was like, no, that can't be right. That eye in the middle of her forehead. Okay, this tiny little black piece, which probably, if you're cursing me these tiny little black pieces for the eye, I will tell you, if you want, you can take a Sharpie or I don't know if I'd use a Sharpie. I'd use one of those like markers for fabric. You can color the eye in if you're just like, that's impossible, because I know that those ones are very small. I always kind of feel bad doing those, but it's like, I don't want to tell people that they have to go buy a marker. And then some people are very, very nervous about doing that kind of thing. It's like, no, they'd rather it was like a little applique than me telling them to just go ahead and color on it. 20, 21. Okay. I'm just looking at it because I think I have that down a little too low. Okay, 21. We have one more piece after this, and then they're put together. These guys actually go together pretty quickly. Before I did this tutorial, I did one on my cherry blossoms. It was the longest tutorial I've ever done. So this goes like this. Okay, just want to make sure I was doing it right. It was the longest tutorial I've ever done, and we only did one half of the thing. Like there's two branches. We only did one of the two branches. And I was like, by the time we'd finished, it was an hour and like 40 minutes. And I said, oh my gosh, that is the longest tutorial I have ever done. And it was crazy. And I had mistakes. I was so upset. I had like a mini tantrum. No. Okay. So these guys are finished, these two. So now what we're going to do with them is I'm actually, for the moment, I'm going to move this out of the way. And turn my light off so you can see them a little better here. I'm going to put my ugly old quilter's cut and press on here. And now we're going to fuse these into one, actually, it will be one big applique. You can build these separate where they're, like if you want to build the first bird and then move your pressing sheet over and build the second bird where they're not overlapping on their face, you can certainly do that and then have two appliques to put down one at a time. For me, I just build them together, and it doesn't, I guess I don't care that to do them one at a time, but it can be a little easier to handle them one at a time. So if you're not sure that you want to have to manage, you know, both birds at once, go ahead and build one bird, move your pressing sheet over a little bit so you can build the separate birds separate from that. So all I'm doing right now, and my iron is not very hot because it fell asleep next to me while I was doing this. I'm gonna let my iron warm up a minute and just chat about this for a second. So I have an iron that doesn't get super hot. So I sometimes turn my iron up to like max or close to max high heat. But if you have an iron that gets really hot, and you probably know your iron better than anybody else, you don't want it to be super hot right now. You just want a kind of a medium heat. And you notice that I'm just lifting and pressing, and just for a couple seconds, lifting, pressing, pressing. That's all we want to do right now. We don't want to actually like fuse this. What we're wanting to do is just warm the glue up so that all these pieces kind of stick to each other and form one applique instead of all these just little jumbles. And then I'm just going to kind of let this cool for a minute. And actually, I'll probably cool it off to the side because what we're going to start doing is building on our background. So once we've got these birds done, these cranes, A and B, I have on the thing lightly fused, gently removed from the pressing sheet. You don't need to remove them from the pressing sheet this moment. I actually, a lot of the times will leave them on the pressing sheet, but people get confused sometimes if you say to leave it and they're not sure what to do. So I just say, just take them off. But we're going to go ahead right into the background arrangement. I'm just going to put these guys off to the side. And we're going to grab our background. Well, actually, we're going to grab our pattern and put this back on here. Sorry, I have to do it sideways. But we're going to go ahead and stick our background on. Now remember that you want the darker part at the top. And these are batiks. There's not really a right or wrong side really to these kind of solid batiks, but sometimes you might notice like this side, it's a little smoother transition. This side, there's a few more harsher colors. I don't really want the harshness. I want this nice smooth transition. And it's not very noticeable. And if you did it backwards, who cares? But if you can see how there's some like dark lines here, this is technically to me the back. You don't see those lines as much here, but and I don't want that. I don't want that in mine. But if I did it the other way, you probably wouldn't notice. I kind of look for those things when I'm doing it. So if you when you're looking at yours, if you see that kind of thing with your batik and you like the harshness, do that side. If not, do the other side. Really, there's not really a right or wrong side. Technically there is, but it's very minor. Okay, so onto the background. We're going to start, while my appliques are cooling, we're going to start doing the rest of it. So we're doing water reflections A through J, and that's all of these pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and pop off A, or pop out. Get my little sticker off of there. And A just fits right along the bottom. So you can see the lines where it goes, but really the main part is that it just sort of fits along the bottom edge of your piece. And then we're going to do B, and they go up in numerical order. So we're kind of starting towards the bottom and moving our way up. B is over here. C is right in here. And now C is going to get covered up by those cranes. So we're going to tuck the ends of C, go under each crane, right? So what I do is I always kind of look for like little areas like this, that's like a little V, and put it in there. And that way I know it's centered, and it is going to get hidden by the cranes. D. I have a few little threads that are sticking out here with D that I'm going to snip off. If you're not sure where it is, it's over here. But if you're ever not sure where something is, again, hold it in place with one hand, flip over, check it out. I have D and E both over there. E. And again, E is going to get partially covered up by the cranes. F. F is going to be in here. Yep. So again, I'm gonna put it in. I'm like putting it in the center and making sure it's aligned correctly from the middle. Instead of starting over here, it's going to get covered again by the cranes. I want to make sure that that's going to happen. G. Right, G. Yep. G is right here. H. H got a bunch of little threads, so I'm just going to snip those little threads off because you won't really notice them on a pink background from a pink applique. But if there's a lot of them, I kind of like to snip them away. H. So where's H? Let me find it. F. Oh, H is back over here. Okay, so I'm just going to line up this little wiggly part here in the middle. H. I is here in between the cranes. And J. And then that's all our water pieces. Okay, so J is done. Now we're going to arrange crane A and crane B. So if you've done them separately, you can do A and then B. I put them together at the beak here. So I'm going to go ahead and peel them off. Now, if I didn't get enough heat somewhere, sometimes things might stick. So when you peel it, remember we've only warmed the glue up. Oops, see, that's not really sticking to each other right now, right? But if I peel it up as one big piece, sometimes sometimes like if a leg falls off, I don't even care. I'll just put the leg on the background. Oh, see, his head fell off. But you know what? I don't actually mind that because this is going to cover that. I'm just going to, this isn't how I'd always do it, but it works, you know. This is actually going to cover that part. I'm going to put the body off to the side. I'm going to peel this part of the crane's head off. And the girl. Oh my God. And the girl is coming off too. Okay, obviously I did not put enough heat on this when I put it together. I'm just going to put that together. I'm going to try putting her legs. So if you're finding that things are like not sticking at all, like I think I'm just going to put some more heat on this because I don't want it to look like, what is going on? If this happens, and it does, My iron, like I said, had been sleeping, so obviously it wasn't getting very good heat up here. So I'm going to leave that the way it is, but I'm going to go ahead and put a little more heat to this just for a few seconds. We don't want to overheat it. We're just trying to warm it up so they all kind of stick to each other so they become one applique, right? And when you have this many little pieces, it's a pain in the butt if they don't become one, essentially, because then you're having to kind of piece it all back together. I'm going to still leave his body separate because this happens to me on a regular basis where I peel something up and something doesn't stick. And instead of trying to make it all stick again, I just go ahead and like put this part down and then I'll stick that on. So there we go. See how now she's feeling, now they're feeling it. We just needed a little more heat. And my iron, it shuts off after like 8 minutes or something. And so all the time it gets cold. And so when I was putting heat to it before, it must have still just been way too cold. So, okay. Now I'll get my pressing sheet out of the way. So now we have her and the top of him to put in place, right? So I'm just going to kind of line up the back of her neck and her back area here. Put her legs down. I don't want to try to force anything either. So if you're laying it down and you have it off a little bit, and even like with his head right now, so his beak isn't quite exactly on where his beak was, but I don't, that doesn't really bother me. And one of the things that I always try to tell people is I arranged him where it was in the right place, right? Well, I'm going to put it on here and it's just not exactly where I want it to go, but his body is going to go on here. And as long as the body lines up well, and his legs go where they're supposed to. Now I need to lift her beak up because we want it tuck under. So that fits really nicely. And I don't want to try to force his head around. If I pick this up and I'm pulling on it, it's not going to lay nice and it's going to want to pull the fabric. So I don't know if you can see that the beak is off a little bit here. I've tried to remind people, everything I do is nature. Nature's not perfect. Your bird might have his head tilted a little different than mine. As soon as I take this away, actually, I don't even have to pull this out from behind it, right? As soon as I take that light away and you don't see the lines, it looks just fine. So don't get hung up on something being exactly perfectly right on the line where it's supposed to be, because once you don't see the lines, it looks great. It looks perfect. It looks fine. Nobody's going to notice if your beak is a quarter, not even a quarter, like 1/8 of an inch off from the drawing. It looks wonderful the way it is. So I'm not going to bother messing with that. I'm going to leave it alone. They look amazing. Okay, now we're going to put all grasses and cattail pieces together in numerical order. So we have 3 things. We have our dark brown, we have our grass, and we have the little cattails on the dark brown fans, right? Those are all the ones that we have left that go with the cattails. So starting at the bottom over here, we're starting to go over this way with number 1. So number 1 is a little stick. It's little sticks that are in the marshy areas. Oop. Number 1. Number 2 is another little stick. Oh, my little sticks have little sticks sticking out of the sides of them. So let me just chop those little, their threads off. Number 2, number 2. Number 3 is grass. Pop this out. Number 4 is up here a little bit, and that is also a little stick, as is number 5. And even with these, you know, I always try to tell people, I'm not trying to tell you to be sloppy. I'm just trying to tell people that, you know, there's so many things to stress over in life. If your wing is a little different, your beak is in a different place, if your grass isn't quite in, you know, in line, so what? Like, it's gonna look great. I don't teach a lot, which is part of the reason why I wanted to do some video tutorials, because I don't teach a lot. So people don't always have opportunities to have me instruct them or get little tips or things, you know, the way that I do stuff. So that's part of why I wanted to do video tutorials. But I thought, like, one of the things that I've noticed is there's some people in class who are so precise and they just want everything perfect, and they stress over every little thing not being exactly where it's supposed to be, or the shape not being exactly how it looks on the drawing or whatever. And especially when it used to be like people would cut things themselves, because, you know, if you don't cut it like exactly on your lines, of course it's going to be a little off. And I would just tell people all the time, like, it's nature, and your grass can be a little different than my grass. And nobody's going to know, and nobody's going to notice either. And so don't like stress over it so much, because when you compare them right next to each other, you probably won't even notice then. But who's going to be going around with their wall hanging comparing yours to mine anyhow? So here, number 10 has two parts, just so you know. It has an A and a B. Make sure you do A, which is the stick part first, and then B, which is the cattail. So the cattail's on top. Now I'll move on to 11. But I also had told some folks, oh, I think I didn't mark 11. Is 11 a piece of grass? It is. It's right here. I have taught classes a few times. Back, I did a few, like a long time ago, before I was really into laser, like doing the laser kits where they were cut it yourself ones. And I'll tell you, some people would cut theirs so perfect. Like they just wanted everything exactly, and, you know, would spend all this time. And then there were other people who were just like, and oh my gosh, some of them, I remember, like, you know, you never want to, like, I don't ever want to be mean or say like, oh my God, that looks terrible, you know? And, but there were some people that that I've taught in the past, that when they cut, oh my goodness, I mean, it was like, I don't even know if they're trying to do on the lines. Like they're doing like impressionist, applique or something, which, you know, I love impressionist art. But it's like, it's meant to kind of give the impression of a flower in the end. And there were a few times that I was really worried that the people would be unhappy with their thing. And then when it was over, it looked fine, you know? And I thought, like, I was surprised because there were a few people that I was really worried, like, that they're going to be like, oh my God, this looks terrible. And you know, I was like, well, you know, it'll look good. It'll look good. And then when it was done, it really did look fine. And we would take pictures a lot of the times with everybody doing or holding theirs up together. And the people who really spent all that time on it, of course, yeah, sure, up close, theirs looked, you know, really nice. If you compared it directly to the person who, you know, was doing impressionist applique. But when you got it, you know, a few feet away, you really didn't notice much of a difference. And so I thought, well, that's good to know, you know, that it really is a very forgiving art form, I guess. So we're getting close here to, whoops, there are a bunch of little ones kind of out in the background here, but most of them are around the bottom. So as I mentioned, I live in Kenai, Alaska, and we have the Kenai River. And this all around the river is this big, like, flat, I would call it the flats, but it's just, you know, this marshy area. And we get lots and lots of birds there. And there's a lot of, like, little twigs and stuff growing in the grass. And this is kind of like the way that I normally would have seen cranes would be, you know, out on the flats. Until I don't do their pattern and they come to my house and say, yo, lady, get it in gear. And I did. It did take me a while to get their kits done, but anyhow. So this whole, and then the 23. So, okay, so we did to 23 here. I think we have, yeah, 24 starts in here. So we'll just start that. Well, I'm pleasantly happy so far that I haven't found any more mistakes. I do think it's really kind of funny that both the mistakes were in their legs, you know. I also kind of find it like a little ironic that I'm like, please don't find mistakes. Here we go. Let's start with piece 1. And piece 1 is wrong. What is wrong with me? Why? Why? Anyhow. But that's why I test them, you know. It's always a good idea to test. There's been, I mean, I always tell people too, like, if you find a mistake, let me know. And what's hilarious is that there's some kits that I made. I mean, there's some patterns I made like over a decade ago, and I'll have sold, I don't know, hundreds, maybe thousands of some of them, and nobody will have ever said anything to me about a mistake. And then all of a sudden someone will message me and say, hey, I'm doing, you know, blah, blah, blah pattern, and it says this, but I'm not sure if that's right. You know, can you let me know? And I'll go look at it and I'll be like, oh my gosh, yeah, you're right. That's wrong. How has nobody in 10 years ever noticed? And then it like told me. I mean, I figure there's probably people who've noticed it, but nobody's told me in 10 years, you know. And it's okay. So over here, 29.30. And so I do appreciate if you do find something. A lot of the times it's kind of like with these ones, I have a bunch printed. So it's not like easy to always fix those little things where it's like, oh yeah, 1 and 2, it should be 1 and 2 versus 1 and 2. But I do always try to make those corrections. I just pulled, 33 I pulled up. This one I have a piece of sticky behind it because it was falling out when I labeled it earlier. And so I'm going to put 33 there just so I don't lose it. But this one is 30, which is actually my last little grass piece. But anyhow, I always do appreciate when people find a mistake. If it's like a really bad mistake, you know, I definitely want to correct it. Sometimes it's like a little very minor thing, and I'm not as worried about it especially if it's been a decade. But whenever I find mistakes, what I usually will do is I'll try to fix them and send the new files up to the printer. And the next time I get some printed, I make sure that it's corrected and that they have the new file. So, okay, 34, 35, 36, and then that's it for those. And all those little thingies are in place. And if you bump stuff too, it's another thing. I bump things all the time when I'm putting stuff, and I'll realize later that like I'm like quite off. I also just did 35 where 34 is supposed to go, so I'm gonna move that. That's 35. This is 34. There's been times where I've like been where I didn't realize it, but I'm like this much off of something. Like I'm really like ½ inch off, and then I go, oh man, I put all those pieces on. And then unless they look like really wonky, I'm like, that's fine. They're staying where they are. Like, holy cow, I'm not going to go peel all these off and re-stick them. I know people who would, but I don't. And then last thing, so that's everything. So last one are Cranes C, D, and E. So these are Cranes C, D, and E. Just want to pop them out. There's the little silhouette guys. So we have our 2 little lovebirds in the front here. In the background, we have C. He is really, really trying hard to get the attention of D. And D seems to be liking it. Obviously, C's got to be a boy. I mean, he's just like really looking silly up there. D's kind of like, okay, yeah, I'll dance with you. You're kind of cute. So this guy's really trying hard to get this girl. And then this one over here, this one's like, I'm more concerned with my lunch. Or she's like an old lady. She's already got her man. She's just gonna go eat. Okay, so that is everything for the arrangement. Once you get everything arranged, the next thing we'll want to do is fuse everything well with steam. And then of course you'll put your borders on, and you'll do your quilting and your binding and everything. But I'm not going to do that part with you, but I am going to show you the steaming process. So I'm actually going to go ahead and flip him this way, see if my iron is awake again. Okay, it's got to wake up. So while my iron is waking up, I'm going to talk a little bit about, let's see, how about our finishing? So quilting, when you get to the point of quilting, this is mine that is finished. The quilting is done. So I am very minimal when it comes to quilting. I use a clear thread because I'm lazy and I don't want to change my thread all the time, but I don't stitch on my appliques. So with this one, I like start here and I do a free motion stitch. I just kind of go around this guy, over here, kind of staying within about 1/8 of an inch of the edge, around here, around these guys, come down here, go around this. And I just sort of, that's all I kind of do. I will come in and like around here, I did stitch over the appliques just to kind of get in here because I just kind of, it's just like a little stitch. And then I jump over and I come into here. But that's all I do. You certainly can quilt on the appliques if you want to, but you want to use a matching colored thread. So if you're doing a clear thread and you're stitching through these light colors with the fusible on them, I promise you that you will not like it. You're going to see little black holes everywhere your needle punctured, and there's nothing to fill them but clear thread. So if you're going to stitch on the appliques, use a matching color thread because that thread is going to fill in those holes for you so you don't end up with these little black spots. You don't have to stitch on the appliques in a wall hanging. It's going to be on the wall. If it gets a little dusty or dirty over time, instead of washing it, grab yourself a roller brush and just roller. And this will roll right off all dust, dog hair, cat hair, whatever else. Obviously, if you do end up getting something splatted on it and you need to wash it, you can, I would just hand kind of wash it in the sink, spot scrub it and wherever it is, and then let it just dry, air dry. And then if you need to iron a little bit to get wrinkles out, do that later. You can put it in a washer. I would do it on a very gentle cycle, but don't put it in a dryer. And the reason I say don't put it in a dryer is because what are we going to do on this next? Well, we're going to apply some water or steam and heat. And the water and the heat, which is what happens in your dryer, right? You take a wet thing and you heat it up to dry it. What does that do? It warms up this glue and it makes it stick to the background. Well, if you do it again, it also warms up the glue and makes it sometimes come unstuck from the background. It's like refusing it. So you want to not put it in a dryer, let it air dry if you ever do need to dry it. And so now let's get through, now that my iron has woke up, let's go through and fuse everything and we're done. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do before I apply any sort of steam or water to it is I'm just going to take my iron on a kind of medium heat. I'm just going to put a little heat on it, sort of like what we did on the pressing sheet, just for a few seconds, just to kind of warm that glue back up and get it to kind of hold to the background. Because right now, and do not iron, lift and press, lift and press. And the reason you don't want to iron is because these appliques right now, they have a little sticky to them, but they're not super stuck to the background, right? They're just kind of temporarily stuck there. So if I were to roll across that, this little beak might come a little loose and it might catch on my iron and roll away with my iron. And then guess what? The beak is ruined. See, like even this, see how it's kind of, it'll easily lift up. If my iron caught that and it rolled, that's going to ruin that applique. It's going to get glue all over the back of my iron. It's going to be a mess. So you just lift and press and you're just warming the glue up, just getting it to kind of stick so it holds and stays in place, especially when you go to like blast it with steam, because you definitely want it to stay in place when you're steaming it. I have a kind of a silly thing that happened to me one time. I was making a sample for my family's quilt shop when I was like 20, 21. And I didn't do this part first. And I just hit it with some steam. And apparently a petal flew off into the sky and it stuck there. And when I got to that point, I thought, well, that must be where the petal was supposed to go. I don't know why, but it's like, maybe flying through the air, like it got caught by a breeze. No, it wasn't supposed to be in the sky, but I ended up fusing it where it was. And it was years later. It was hanging in the store for a long time before I realized, I don't think that's supposed to be there. And I went and checked the pattern and no, it wasn't. And what happened is I blasted it with steam. My applique shot off, landed over here, right side up. So it was in the right place. And I just thought it was supposed to go there and I fused it. So your appliques will move when you go to hit it with steam if you don't do this part, or they can, I guess I should say they can. So if you have a reliable steam iron, I do not. I don't trust this iron at all. So if you have a reliable steam iron and you want to steam it, go ahead and hold, at this point now, hold your iron about within an inch of your appliques, blast it with steam for about a count of maybe 5 to 6 seconds. So we're going to blast it with steam. Then set it directly down on that spot with dry heat for another 8 to 10 seconds. Now, I don't trust it. And what you would do then is you do it over every footprint, every applique all the way, right? I don't trust my iron. So I'm going to use a spray bottle and I'm just going to get them wet, pretty good and wet. Put my iron on with just dry heat. And I'm going to wait until all that water's evaporated. It takes about 10 seconds. This is the part that I've noticed a lot of ladies get very anxious about, just letting go of their iron and leaving it there. But this is what you want to do. The steam is very important. The moisture is very important. And it's what really makes these appliques stick and stay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if you notice when you're doing this, especially on lighter areas, if you notice little dots showing up, that's from your fusible, and that means your iron is a little too hot. So if you see those little dots showing up, especially I notice them in light areas when my iron has gotten a little too hot, that is when you want to go, ooh, hang on, let me turn this down, let it cool off for a few minutes before you proceed, and then keep going. So I would just do this over the whole thing. And when you're finished, I also recommend for designs like this, which so his body, there's quite a few layers in, whoop, iron tipped over. There's quite a few layers in here. And so one of the things that I always remind people is that the part of this applique that's against the background, that's really holding everything to the background, is that back layer, the final layer. So if you have an area like here that has this dark brown, then this medium brown, then this white all on it, you have like 3 layers here. And you could have other areas that on some of my designs, like with animals' faces, you might have 4 or 5 layers in certain spots. And so I always tell people, in the case of a lot of the times, usually animals, more than anything else, that one of the things that I always recommend doing is once you're finished, flip this over and fuse it from the back, because then you know that that steam and that heat have penetrated all the way to the very bottom layer and are really nice and fused on there really well. So I'm almost done here with the top, and then we'll flip it over and we'll do the back. And if you notice when you're touching it, like, oh, this area is still a little damp, put your heat back on it, let it evaporate all that heat. All that steam before you move on. We really want that steam layer to penetrate. And if you have any question about whether or not your fusibles are stuck really well, once they've cooled off a little bit, you can always kind of just take your fingernail and try to get them up. If they're staying, they're stuck. They're on there really good. And I will do that even with designs that I've made, 15 years ago, I can still go and scratch. Oh, that was just brand new. I don't want to do it in a warm spot. This area here. I can go to one that I've done 15, 16 years ago and still make that, and it's still going to stick. And part of that is two things. I don't put them in the washer and dryer a lot, right? Because they're wall hangings. They don't need to be washed all the time. But I do move them around. They have been in trunk shows. They've gone and traveled. They've been put up, put down, boxed up, moved around. It's not like they've just sat there forever and just sat on a wall even forever, but it holds up very, very well. So Steam-A-Seam, it's a great product. It's what's on all my kits. So the fusible that I use is always going to be Steam-A-Seam. There are other fusibles out there. You can, of course, use whatever you want if you're cutting one yourself. But if you want a permanent bond fusible that's very reliable, Steam-A-Seam is the one that I use. I like the light version, not the regular weight, mostly because the light version, when I'm doing these things with so many layers of stuff, the regular weight, as you have more than one layer, it just gets really stiff and really thick. And so I prefer the light. So light Steam-A-Seam 2 is what you find on all my kits. And I think that's about it. So I would just finish fusing the back of this. Of course, afterwards, you're going to want to do quilting and binding. I don't have posts up yet or video tutorials up yet for quilting and binding, but I am planning this week to do a couple tutorials. I have on my tips page of my website, I do have a step-by-step guide with pictures on how to do quilting and binding. But, you know, these days people like videos. I do too. So I thought I am making a bunch of samples or finishing up a bunch of these samples. And so one of the things with doing binding is it's like, well, there's a lot of steps and I don't necessarily want to do the binding on the whole thing, but I need to show you how to start. I need to show you how to do a corner. I need to show you how to finish on the machine. Then I need to show you how to hand stitch it. So we got to start, we got to do a corner, we got to finish, right? So I have so many samples at the moment that I was like, I think I could have each one in its right spot and we could go ahead and do a tutorial where we go through and do all of them, where it only takes maybe 15 to 20 minutes versus, you know, an hour and a half. So, so that's something in the works this week too, along with all these other Summer Zen samples. Okay, so we're all finished with our Sandhill Cranes. And if you are interested in a kit, like I mentioned before, the laser cut kits are available on my website. If you go to www.wildfiredesignsalalaska.com, Alaska all spelled out, there is a link on my shop page to my new shopping site, which you can also just directly go to, which is www.shopwildfireak.com. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I hope you like the Sandhill Cranes and that you've learned a thing or two about Steam-A-Seam and how these laser kits work. And I'll see you again hopefully soon. Thanks so much.